The Grand Hall of Arcanum Academy was a breathtaking sight. Chandeliers of wrought iron and crystal hung from the vaulted ceiling, casting a warm, flickering light that danced across the polished stone floor. The walls were lined with towering stained glass windows, each depicting a scene from the Academy's storied history. Battles fought, alliances forged, and ancient spells cast by mages long since past. The air was thick with the hum of anticipation as the new students, including Harry Dresden, gathered for the sorting ceremony. Harry's heart pounded in his chest as he stood among his peers, all of them buzzing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the knowledge that whatever happened next would set the course for his entire time at Arcanum Academy. He clenched his fists, trying to steady his breath, his thoughts racing. "Remember," Lyra whispered beside him, her voice barely audible over the murmurs of the crowd, "no matter what house you're sorted into, you'll be fine. Just trust the process." Harry nodded, though the words did little to ease his nerves. The sorting ceremony had been the topic of hushed conversations ever since they had arrived at the academy, with older students sharing stories of their own experiences, some with pride, others with a touch of trepidation. The ceremony was more than just a formality. It was a rite of passage, one that would determine where each student belonged in the complex social structure of the school. "Welcome, first years," boomed a voice from the front of the hall. The crowd fell silent as Professor Ethelwold, the imposing headmaster, stepped forward to address them. His robes billowed around him like a storm cloud, and his sharp, angular features were set in a serious expression. "The time has come for you to be sorted into your houses," Ethelwold continued, his voice carrying effortlessly through the hall. "Each house represents a different path, a different approach to the magical arts. The house you are sorted into will be your home, your family, for the duration of your time at Arcanum. It will shape your education, your friendships, and your future as a mage." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Harry could feel the tension in the room, the collective breath held by every student waiting for their name to be called. "Each of you possesses a unique potential," Athelwold said, his gaze sweeping over the gathered students. "The sorting will reveal where that potential lies and where it will flourish. But remember this, while your house will guide you, it is you who must choose your path. Your decisions, your actions will define who you are." With a flick of his wrist, Ethelwold conjured a large, shimmering orb that floated in the air beside him. The orb pulsed with an ethereal light, shifting through colors that seemed to have no name. It was mesmerizing, and Harry found himself drawn to it, the light reflecting in his eyes. "The sorting orb will determine your house," Ethelwold explained. "When your name is called, step forward and place your hand on the orb. It will sense the magic within you and reveal where you belong." The silence in the hall was almost palpable as Ethelwold began to read from a long scroll. Amelia Thorne. A girl with curly blonde hair and wide, nervous eyes stepped forward. She hesitated for a moment before placing her hand on the orb. The orb flared with a soft green light, and the banner of Serpentis unfurled above her, its serpent coiling around the staff. "Welcome to Serpentis," Ethelwold said, nodding toward the green-robed students who applauded politely as Amelia made her way to their table. One by one, the first years were called up, each greeted with a burst of light from the orb that corresponded to one of the 4 houses. Harry watched as students were sorted into Firewing, Serpentis, Gryffindor, and Drakenheart. Finally, Ethelwold's voice rang out again, clear and commanding. "Harry Dresden." Harry's heart skipped a beat. His feet felt heavy as he walked toward the sorting orb, the eyes of the entire hall following his every move. He could feel the weight of their expectations, their curiosity, and their judgment. Reaching the orb, Harry took a deep breath and placed his hand on its surface. The orb was cool to the touch, but almost immediately he felt a surge of energy flow through him, as if the orb was probing his very soul. The light within the orb began to shift, swirling in a chaotic dance of colors. Red, blue, green, and gold, all blending and separating in a mesmerizing display. For what felt like an eternity, the orb's light continued to shift, as if it couldn't decide where Harry belonged. Whispers began to spread through the crowd, students exchanging puzzled glances. Harry's heart pounded in his chest, the uncertainty gnawing at him. And then suddenly, the orb flared with a brilliant red and gold light. The Firewing banner above erupted into life, its phoenix spreading its wings as if taking flight. A hushed murmur swept through the hall as the orb's light faded, leaving Harry standing there, his hands still resting on its surface. "Firewing," Ethelwold announced, his voice carrying a note of approval, though Harry couldn't help but notice the slight furrow of the headmaster's brow. "Welcome to Firewing, Harry Dresden." Applause echoed from the Firewing table, though there was a distinct undertone of surprise among the students. Harry withdrew his hand from the orb and walked toward his new house, feeling a mixture of pride and unease. As he took his seat among the Firewing students, he could feel their eyes on him, some curious, others skeptical. Lyra, seated a few places down, gave him an encouraging smile, but Harry could sense the tension. Firewing was known for students who possessed powerful and sometimes dangerous magic, those with the potential to wield fire, both literal and metaphorical. It was a house that prided itself on strength, courage, and passion, but it was also a house with a reputation for producing mages who walked a fine line between light and darkness. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that his placement in Firewing had raised more than a few eyebrows. He was an outsider, a boy who had only just discovered the existence of magic, and now he was expected to thrive in a house where powerful magic was the norm. "Interesting choice," a voice murmured beside him. Harry turned to see a tall, broad-shouldered boy with dark hair and piercing green eyes watching him intently. He had an air of authority, and the Firewing crest on his robes marked him as a senior student. "I'm Marcus Ashford," the boy introduced himself, extending a hand. "Fifth-year Firewing and House Prefect." "Harry Dresden," Harry replied, shaking Marcus's hand. His grip was firm, his gaze steady, and Harry could sense the power behind those eyes. "I've heard about you," Marcus said, a hint of curiosity in his voice. "The new kid from the outside. Didn't think you'd end up in Firewing, though. You must have something special in you." Harry felt a knot form in his stomach. He didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded, hoping his uncertainty didn't show. "Don't worry," Marcus said, as if sensing Harry's unease. "Firewing's tough, but we take care of our own. You'll do fine." Harry wanted to believe him, but the whispers around the table told a different story. He caught snippets of conversations, students questioning why the Sorting Orb had taken so long, others speculating about what kind of magic Harry might possess. Some seemed excited at the prospect of a new addition to the house. As the sorting continued, Harry couldn't help but feel a growing sense of isolation. He was in Firewing now, but did he truly belong? The doubts gnawed at him, but he forced them down, reminding himself of what Professor Ethelwold had said. It was his decisions, his actions, that would define who he was. The sorting ceremony finally came to an end, with all the first years placed into their respective houses. Professor Ethelwold raised his hands for silence, and the hall quieted once more. "Now that you have been sorted, your journey at Arcanum Academy truly begins," the headmaster said. "Your house will be your family, your support, and your challenge. Embrace the path you have been given, but remember that it is you who must walk it." With that, Ethelwold dismissed the students to their respective house common rooms. The Firewing students stood, making their way toward a side door that led to one of the castle's many corridors. Harry followed, his mind still reeling from everything that had happened. The Firewing common room was located in one of the castle's highest towers, accessible only by a winding staircase that seemed to go on forever. The walls were lined with portraits of past Firewing students, mages of great power and renown, some with faces that looked both noble and dangerous. The flickering torches cast dancing shadows across the stone, giving the corridor an almost eerie atmosphere. When they finally reached the common room, Harry was greeted by the sight of a spacious, circular chamber filled with rich, dark wood furniture and tapestries that depicted scenes of fire and battle. A large fireplace dominated one wall, the flames within burning with a brilliant red and gold light. The room had an air of both warmth and intensity, a place where power and passion were nurtured. The Firewing students dispersed, some gathering in groups to talk, others heading to the dormitories to unpack. Harry lingered near the entrance, unsure of what to do. The excitement he had felt earlier was now tempered by a deep sense of unease. He could still feel the weight of the other students' eyes on him, the unspoken questions and doubts hanging in the air. "Hey, don't look so down," Lyra said, coming up beside him. "You made it into Firewing. That's something to be proud of. Not everyone has what it takes to be here." "I know," Harry replied, forcing a smile. "It's just I didn't expect it to be so intense." Lyra chuckled. "That's Firewing for you. We're all about pushing boundaries, testing limits. You'll get used to it." "Yeah, maybe," Harry said, though he wasn't so sure. The thought of being surrounded by students who were already so powerful, so confident in their abilities, was daunting. But at the same time, it was exhilarating. This was his chance to prove himself, to discover the magic that lay within him, even if he didn't fully understand it yet. "Come on, let's find a place to sit," Lyra said, leading him toward a group of first years who were chatting by the fireplace. As they approached, the conversation quieted, and Harry could feel the others sizing him up, curious and perhaps a little wary. "You're Harry Dresden, right?" one of the girls asked, her dark eyes studying him intently. She had a sharp, almost predatory look about her, with sleek black hair and a smirk that suggested she enjoyed being in control. "That's right," Harry said, meeting her gaze. He wasn't sure if she was testing him, but he wasn't about to back down. "I'm Celine Nightshade," the girl said, her smirk widening. "I've heard a lot about you, the orphan from London who suddenly found out he's a mage. Must be quite the shock, huh?" "It is," Harry admitted, though he kept his tone neutral. He wasn't sure if she was mocking him or just being blunt. "Well, you must have some serious potential to end up in Firewing," Celine continued, her eyes narrowing slightly. "We don't get many outsiders here, you know." "Yeah, I've noticed," Harry said, a touch of sarcasm creeping into his voice. He wasn't sure why, but something about Celine's attitude rubbed him the wrong way. It was as if she was trying to get a rise out of him, to see if he would crack under the pressure. Celine's smirk faded slightly, and she raised an eyebrow. "You've got some fire in you. I like that." Before Harry could respond, another voice cut in. "Leave the poor guy alone, Celine. He's had a long day." Harry turned to see Marcus approaching, his expression somewhere between amused and exasperated. "Don't mind Celine, Harry. She likes to test people. It's her way of seeing what they're made of." "Thanks," Harry said, relaxing slightly. He appreciated Marcus stepping in, even if he wasn't entirely sure what to make of Celine. "No problem," Marcus said, clapping Harry on the shoulder. "We're all in this together. Firewing is a family, and we look out for each other. But that doesn't mean we won't push you to be your best." Harry nodded, feeling a little more at ease. "I'll do my best." "Good," Marcus said with a grin. "That's all we ask. Now, let's get you settled in. Tomorrow's your first day of classes, and you'll want to be ready." As the night wore on, Harry found himself slowly easing into the rhythm of Firewing. The other first years, while curious, were welcoming enough, and the older students seemed more interested in seeing what he could do than judging him for where he came from. It wasn't exactly comfortable yet, but it was a start. Lying in his bed that night, Harry stared up at the ceiling, the events of the day replaying in his mind. The sorting, the whispers, the doubts, all of it swirled together, a mix of excitement and anxiety. But beneath it all, there was a flicker of something else: determination. He was in Firewing, a house known for power and passion, for walking the line between light and dark. It was a place where he could prove himself, where he could learn to harness the magic within him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Harry Dresden was ready to face them.